So today we're going to be working on this armoire, and there was a portion of this armoire that we sprayed with our sprayer. Turns out it was a mistake. Keep watching, we'll explain what happened and tell you what we did. Welcome to our channel. I'm Jim, and this is my wife Cindy. We find old, outdated, used, and sometimes abused furniture like this and turn it into this. Join us on our journey of furniture makeovers. Well, once again, welcome. Today we're going to be working on our armoire. This is part of a 5-piece bedroom set, and if you've seen the previous few videos we've done, we did the nightstands and the headboard, and then we did the dresser, and now this armoire is the final piece in the set. We got this from a neighbor who just wanted it out of their garage. We were happy to oblige him. So the first step in any furniture makeover is to do your prep work. Just like building a house or anything else, you have to have the proper foundation, and the foundation to any piece coming out decent and professional looking is to make sure you do your prep work. So that includes vacuuming everything out. We use crud cutter to wash the whole piece down. Here you can see how much dirt is coming off that, and this is to improve the adhesion. Once we are done with wiping it down with the crud cutter, we then want to rinse to make sure that there's no soap residue left. And once the entire unit is thoroughly cleaned, then we can go on to the next step, which is removing hardware. So now we're doing a scuff sand on the unit. We're using our orbital sander with 120 grit sandpaper. We're just scuffing up the surface to give better adhesion to the paint. You want to make sure that you scuff sand all the surfaces that you're going to be painting, inside and out. Okay, so we're wrapping our drawers. We're getting ready for spraying. We're doing it in the Scotch Blue. This is painter's tape with plastic. You can get this at any Home Depot, Lowe's has it. It's just Scotch Blue tape with painter's plastic attached, where we have this overlap, where they overlap with the thing. We usually throw a piece of tape on there just to make sure we hold it closed. That way you don't get any spray in there. So we're going to keep wrapping the drawers. So we're going to do something a little bit different on this one. When we're spraying the bin sealer, we notice that it leaves you with a very, to the touch, a very rough surface. When you sand it, it comes off very easily as far as the roughness, and it smooths out very, very easily. So that's not a big deal. But when we spray it over these grooves that are in the furniture, it's getting that rough texture in there. And to get the sandpaper into each one of these grooves to get that rough texture out is proving to be kind of time consuming. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Dixie Belle Slick Stick. We're just going to do the grooves and the designs in here, and then we'll spray the rest with the bin sealer. So if you watched our last video with the dresser, you know that we missed a couple of holes in the doors. They were just stabilizer holes to hold this hardware. So we have a couple in these doors also that we're going to fix. We're going to just patch those up, and we'll be using Dixie Belle's Mud to fill those. And then once that's dry, we'll go ahead and sand it, and that'll take care of those. We also, when we did this, it looks like we're covering the top holes, and actually what we did was the hardware left some little indentations in the wood that we wanted to get those filled in too, so those wouldn't show through on the new finish. So now that the doors are all smoothed out and ready to go, we're ready to start spraying our primer. We are using the bin shellac based primer, and we're spraying it with our critter sprayer, which you can find on Amazon. Once we had all the primer sprayed on, then we went ahead and let that dry, and then we came back with a 120 sanding block. We sanded down the entire unit just to smooth out the primer. It's just taking off the rough spots off the top. Gives us a smooth finish to work with. And you want to make sure that when you do this, you get everything smoothed down. And then of course you want to make sure that you wipe it down and get all the dust off before you begin to paint. So once we finished all our sanding, we wipe the unit down and we're all ready for paint. So we're using our HomeRite sprayer, and we're using the Sherwin Williams Emerald paint. Since we don't have a tripod big enough to get an overhead shot of the top of the unit, we decided to give you a very special treat today via our spray cam. So after our first coat was done, we went ahead and sprayed on a second coat. And here's the exception and the mistake that we talked about in the beginning of the video. The inside of the cabinet, when we used our sprayer, because of the blowback and because the overspray didn't have anywhere to go, there was so much dust inside that cabinet that the whole inside of the cabinet was very rough when we were done spraying it. It was probably the texture of a 60 grit sandpaper. So we sanded the inside of the unit down to smooth the paint out, which normally we don't have to do, but we smoothed it all out. And then when we sprayed our second coat, we sprayed everything except the inside of the cabinet, and then decided to go ahead and brush and roll the inside of the cabinet for the second coat, since we already had it smoothed out. and we knew the brushing and rolling would give us almost the same texture as what our spraying does. It just takes a little longer. We went ahead and did that, and the inside ultimately came out just as nice as the rest of the unit. And now that the second coat has dried, the fun begins. This is where we begin to see how our unit's actually going to look as we start taking off all the masking, putting on the hardware, and putting everything back together. So I wanted to show you guys a problem that occurs quite often with new hardware. They sent 2 screws. One is too short. This one is way too long. It actually won't even it gets to the end of the inside of the handle. So if you go to Lowe's and find a pair of wire strippers that look like this, you'll see that there are holes, and they are for different screw sizes. So you put your screw in the proper hole, and in this case we're going to cut off about 1/4 inch. So there you go, and squeeze, and you've cut your screw down. Now the nice thing about these is if you ever tried to cut a screw with like wire cutters or something, you know that it messes up the threads. These are designed with the holes in them so that when you do that, it actually cuts them straight across the threads, and you don't have to worry about trying to mess around with the threads at all. They should just go straight into your handle, and it makes easy work of cutting down screws when you need to do that. And those wire cutters, you can find them at Lowe's, Home Depot. You just want to make sure you get the ones that have those holes in them, and they're marked 832, 632. Those are all the different screw sizes. So the armoire is done. All we have left to do is stage it and take some final videos and pictures, and here's how it all looks.